Hi, I'm Steve Hayes, and welcome to This Is My Story. I love stories, and what I find most compelling about them is when I can talk to other people about what's going on in their lives. And when you hear everything that has come together to make them who they are, it's really powerful. So please listen along with This Is My Story.
I'm Stuart Smith, and this is my story.
Hey everybody, welcome to, season 3 now of This Is My Story with Steve Hayes. And today we are joined by a very special guest, probably my closest friend and longest friendship in Corsicana, right?
True.
I don't think I've had a longer running friendship with anybody besides Stuart Smith. So thanks for being my friend, Stu.
Thanks for being my buddy.
Yeah, man, we have a good friendship. We knew each other really before, like you were living in Dallas for a while.
Yeah.
And then you moved back to Corsicana, but we knew each other.
We knew each other in Dallas.
And go way back. Have a lot of fun memories with this guy. So I don't like to get right into all the serious stuff. I remember this one time you called me. I was talking about it earlier. There are 2 big stories about you that I remember that always make me laugh. Excuse me. One is when you and Ryan were riding in that car and y'all looked up in front of y'all and there was a guy driving a truck and he had his arm out the window, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And you called me and you're like, dude, this guy in front of us, his arm looks just like a baby. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Describe the arm.
So the arm was just out the window, and it was huge.
Was he holding the top of the roof of the truck, or did he just have it laying?
He just had it laying kind of out the window,
Uh-huh.
and it was just, and I felt like it was just a baby. I mean,
when
how do you describe something like that?
When you first saw it, did you think a baby was hanging out of the window?
I thought that a baby was laying on the windowsill, like it was levitating.
Were you afraid for the baby?
I just looked at Ryan and I was like, man, look at that guy's arm. Like it looks just like a baby. I mean, is that a baby? And Ryan goes, that's a good point. Like he's the guy you need to get in here and interview.
And talk about the baby arm.
Yes, because he will talk about that for an hour at least.
Well, I just know that y'all called me immediately from the road.
We did.
And we, the three of us,
we called
could not,
3 people.
Oh yeah, we couldn't quit laughing. That's one thing I remember. The other thing is when we went to Mexico, and we were eating those freezer pops, that they sell in Mexico.
I'm trying to remember. I don't even remember this. Hold on, where are you going with this?
You remember it? They sell these freezer pops in Mexico, and these guys come by and they ride their bikes, and they have a freezer on the front of their bike.
Yeah. And
they give you these freezer pops, and they fit in your whole hand, and they're really good. They're not like those little flavor pop. These are really good. And so we were eating those, and we were talking about it on the way home, and you were like,
oh, yeah.
Those things remind me of those things you can't hold on to. You try to hold on to them, you can't hold on to them. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
What is the thing that you were describing at that moment?
So, I think they're called a water snake. Or what are they called?
I think they're called a wet willy.
They're called that thing that you can't hold on to because you can't. It just keeps going.
You try to grab it, it just slips out of your hands.
Yeah.
And that's what you felt like.
We better end this conversation.
That's what you felt like you were eating.
That we don't even
yeah,
talk
we
about.
probably. This is what happens when Stu and I talk. We usually end up going too far, but anyway,
that was a fun trip.
That's why I like Stu so much, because the littlest thing we can turn into something so funny and laugh about for hours.
We laughed for 4 hours straight.
4 hours about the thing you can't hold on to.
Yes, and multiple other things.
Yes,
that
it was
I
awesome.
can't go into detail about.
Yeah, we were about to pass out. We were laughing so hard. And that's usually where our conversations go.
Definitely.
We always end up laughing like that. But one of the reasons I wanted to have you on here Everybody's probably so confused right now.
Oh.
All three people who listen to this are probably really
Yeah.
confused. But but one of the reasons I wanted to have you on here, and people don't know this about you, I think people meet you. You have a very distinct voice. You're kind of, you have that Texas drawl, and people meet you and they think, man, that guy's funny or he's entertaining or whatever it may be, but they don't know a lot of time the whole story of what you've been through. Your story of how you came to Jesus is very compelling, and people don't realize that when they first meet you. So I wanted to give you a chance to kind of share that, because that's what this is all about. It's just a chance for regular people to tell their stories, about the most important person who ever lived, and that's Jesus. So tell me when you first came to realize that you needed Jesus. Like it wasn't your parents' idea, it wasn't your friend's idea, it was you. And what were the circumstances in your life that led up to that?
So it was about 2001, about a year after I'd graduated from college. And I graduated from college in 2000, and the circumstances leading up to that were just, my entire life we went to church. I felt like church was more about, this is what you're supposed to do to look good in the community. People will trust you. If you say you're a believer in a small town in Texas.
Right.
And so, but I was completely lost. I didn't really believe. I got baptized as a baby, which I don't even remember.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even remember the baby arm, much less being a baby.
I was going to ask you, was it you who got baptized as a baby, or was it an
there's
arm?
no knock on that, but I mean, my whole life I grew up in church and just never got it. The
Right.
Lord I never had a real relationship.
Yeah.
And so went to college, had everything going for me, could get anything, do anything I wanted, and was happy, but my happiness was all tied up in, I guess, in the wrong things, apparently.
Right.
And so when I got out of school, in March of 2000, and I don't know what I was going through. I was going through something, but I was in College Station. I was laying in bed that night, and I just said, Lord, if you're ever going to really make me a believer, then you're going to have to do something in my life, because I don't have any reason to come to you. And I don't really know why I prayed that prayer, but I can remember it.
Mm-hmm.
I can vividly remember laying in bed and saying that to God. And the events that unfolded the next 8 months just brought me to nothing, where I had nothing.
So do you feel comfortable telling us a little bit about those events?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I dated this girl in college for about 2.5, 3 years. Thought I knew what love was. I didn't know that love was a commitment and not a feeling. And so, anyways, I'd wrapped up my whole 3 years of college with that relationship. Thought we were going to get married. Had just accepted a job in Dallas. And so this girl, let me go. And so that was torn from me. That was a piece of me that was just torn away.
Right.
That really kind of sent me into, well, who am I now? And then I went to Dallas, got this really good paying job, made good money, but I was not happy. I was searching for happiness, and I was wrapped up into, alcohol and the whole scene of women, alcohol, going out, and finding all my happiness in that. And that was getting me nowhere. Mm-hmm. And then I got involved into gambling on football, and it was pretty crazy because anything that's sinful can be fun in the moment. It's temporary fun. I like to call it temporary fun because sin is fun. I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. Mm-hmm. It is, but it's temporary. And what that led me to was, I think at one point I had about $30,000 in cash in my room in my apartment, and I had a bookie in New York that owed me about 50, 60 grand. Mm. And so anyways, it ended up going bad, and we ended up losing everything. Plus, I owed this guy a lot of money.
Who was playing?
It was I'm trying to remember. It was the
Brett
Detroit
Favre.
Lions. It was the Detroit Lions. It was Monday Night Football.
And the Packers.
It was the Packers. No, it was the Packers and Chicago Bears.
Yeah, it was
And
Brett Favre.
I bet like $60,000 on this one game. This is how dumb my mind was. You know, that we have this thing going and it's unstoppable, and this guy's fixing to pay us.
Yeah, because you had a friend who had like an algorithm
Yes.
that was like a winner for y'all.
It was winning. It was undefeatable,
Wow.
unstoppable.
Until it was.
Yeah. Is that even a word?
Undefeatable? Yeah, man.
I think that may be. I don't
Hey,
know. Let's keep going.
You heard it here first.
So, anyways, I just never will forget. We were winning, and they made some touchdown like with 5 seconds left in trash time, and it ruined the whole deal. But anyways, so I went from making good money to not having any, plus owing a guy a lot of money, and he was threatening my life, and I had no relationship. I felt like I had nobody to turn to for real friendship. I had no money, and I just felt like I had nothing. My happiness had been totally stripped away, and I really felt like God allowed those things to happen because of that prayer that I prayed. And I know that I had multiple other people praying for me. I mean, I know my parents were. And I got to this point. It was about November. It was November of 2001. Or 2000. It was November of 2000. And there was a point so low, you know, where a kid that had everything, that had a family, you know, that cared about him, and there was people that cared about me. I just couldn't see it.
Right.
And I nearly took my own life. I mean, it got to the point where there was a night in my apartment where I had a shotgun. I was playing my guitar that night. I was depressed. I had a shotgun, and I really was about to. And I looked over on I had a little table beside my nightstand, and there was a Bible down there. And I don't know if I heard the voice of the Lord. I don't know, but it basically just came to my inner thoughts. You have never followed me completely. You've gone after all these things for happiness. Sorry, this is like, let me get my breath. So when I go back to this moment, I can hear that voice saying, "You have never fully followed me. You know, you've never given me a shot. Either give me a shot, you know, you can take yourself out of this world, or give me a shot." And so I decided at that point that I was going to give God a full shot, you know, like I'd given everything else, alcohol, women, you know, everything that I was doing. And so from that point forward, I really did. I read the Bible. I just started soaking every book in that I could read, the Bible. I started going to different singles ministries in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. I was fully seeking Him.
Yeah, and you started, I mean, it wasn't just that you were seeking Him, you started actually beginning to serve Him, too.
Yes.
With your musical talent, and you started leading worship.
My whole perspective changed.
Yeah.
Like it's like He totally, the first Bible study that I ever did in my life, I remember these guys invited me to this Bible study that I'd met at Prestonwood Baptist Church. And I think it was called Metro. It was a singles ministry, like in 2001. And I remember all I was praying for was, God, bring me some Christian friends. Bring me some people that are really believers in You and following You to surround me with. And I remember I was praying that prayer. I was keeping a prayer journal. And I prayed that for like 4 to 6 months. And He didn't bring me anybody. But now I can look back on that time, you know, and realize why He wasn't bringing me somebody, because I needed to be all alone with Him and build my foundational relationship with Him. And he didn't want any distractions. He didn't want a girl. He didn't want friends. And so that was a tough time, because I was struggling with taking my own life to trying to really fully follow him, and he wouldn't even bring me people, that to surround me with. And I was just like, really? What kind of God are you?
Yeah, because you're not you and I relate in this way. We're not alone kind of people.
No.
Like, we want to be around people. We want to be in the mix. So being alone is like misery to us.
But when he finally did bring that group of guys and they invited me to this Bible study, the first Bible study we did it was all about renewing of the mind. What's the verse? Transform.
Romans 12:1.
Yes.
Be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Yes.
Not conformed.
Yeah, to be not conformed to the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind like Christ.
Yep.
And I feel like that's what he did with the way I think about everything now. Now, not to say that God, I probably make more mistakes now than I ever have, but it always brings me back to, I always come back to this moment in my life and remember, what my motives and what my perspective.
Because it saved your life.
Yes. Like literally.
And I've talked about this with other people, and it's amazing how many people get to a moment like that. But there are people who know that God has saved their soul. They know they had a moment where they realized they needed a Savior for their soul so that they could have eternity with God. But some of the most compelling people and some of the biggest changes in people's lives come not only when you realize that you need God to save your soul, but you need Him to save your life.
Yeah.
Like, you might not live another day or another moment if it weren't for a connection with God.
Yeah, I know without a doubt that if He wouldn't have reached down and grabbed me and did all the stuff that He did, that I'd either be homeless, I'd be dead. Like, I do not deserve at all to have anything that I have today. And I know God doesn't care about materialistic things, but and sometimes it scares me a little bit because I have had success in the world and I know all of it. I don't know why He's given me what He's given me. I was playing golf with a guy about a month ago, and I just always say, like, why are we here? Why do I get to be here? Why this beautiful place? Like, why in the world? And some people will say, well, it's because you worked hard and because you went out there and did it. And I'm like, no. I didn't do anything. I didn't do nothing. He did everything.
So what does all of that mean to you? Like, everything that you've experienced, and we talked about this before. There are some people who think that coming to God is just you weigh all the factors and you make a decision and you choose to follow God. And then there's other people who think, no, God's so powerful and His love is so strong, His grace is so overwhelming. I didn't really make that choice. God left me with no choice other than to follow Him. It seems like that's where you always come down is, if it were up to me, it was up to me for a long time and I didn't choose God.
Yeah, exactly.
So you really feel like God reached into your circumstances and rescued you.
I know He did. I can't take credit. I can't take credit for believing. Any faith that I have, I feel like it's been given to me. Like, I can't take any credit for any decision that I've made, except for the bad ones.
And does that...
Anything good that I do in my life is because He gave me the strength, the courage, the wisdom, the forethought. I didn't do any of it.
What does that do to you internally to know that and to have that kind of perspective?
Peace.
Yeah.
I got a lot of peace.
So all that turmoil you had before, all that questioning whether you should even live before, all that's gone?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Good.
For sure.
And I know you still wrestle. You still
Oh yeah, I
have
still
struggles.
wrestle. But when I really, when the Holy Spirit really grabs me and just says, "Look, sit down and think about where you came from. That apartment room where you nearly took your own life, and I grabbed you and I pulled you up and I took you through hills and valleys, top of the mountain, valleys, top of the mountain, valleys. You're in a valley, and I've got you here for a reason. You can't see what it is right now, but later down the road, you're going to look back and you're going to know why I had to bring you here."
Right.
Or allow things to happen to bring you to this point so you could achieve this.
Right.
And so, I don't know. And I think it's different for everybody, probably how they get saved. But for me, it was definitely, I'm not going to take credit for any of it.
And I don't think we can, I mean, Ephesians 2 is very clear about that. It's by grace you've been saved through faith. It's a gift of God, not of your own, so that no one may boast. And that's one thing I've appreciated about you, as we've had many chances. We laugh a lot. You're probably my friend. We have a lot of fun because we just have the freedom to be stupid together. We just talk about stupid things and laugh about stupid things, and a lot of people wouldn't get it. But the real foundation of our friendship is that we share a faith in Jesus. It's a deep faith, and it has connected us because we both feel like, man, there's nothing special about me. God chose me, and he saw fit to shower me with his grace, and it's not anything that I've done. I can't boast about it. I can boast about him.
Yeah.
Because he's awesome, but I can't boast about me. My decision making is not that good.
No. Mine is terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, but I still have peace because I always know that he's going to bring me back to the place that I need to be, the place that he wants to use me. And I have to also look at it. Sometimes I think people struggle with this. They see people being used in different areas, and they say, "Well, why can't I do that? Or why am I not doing that?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I need to try harder, or whatever it is." And I'm like, no. Enjoy watching somebody else get to serve, and I'm going to enjoy getting to watch other people get to serve. And as soon as I start to think, why am I not in that? Or I have to sit back and go, no, God's going to use you in other places.
Right.
Right now you're in a season where he's doing things, and he's going to figure this out in your life, or he's got a plan.
Right.
You're just not in that place yet.
So what's he doing in you now?
What's
we
he
talked
doing
about
in me
when
now?
You came to him. What are you learning about the Lord now? I see you got a cast on your arm. You had surgery.
Yeah.
You learning anything through all that?
I think I'm in a season. I think I'm in a season right now where, I've got my wife, my 3 kids, my business, and I need to rest in that. I need to do well in those areas. When an opportunity comes at me where I can help somebody else, take advantage of those opportunities. Always be looking and praying for God, open my eyes to somebody that I can serve.
Right.
And it may not happen today. Maybe it'll happen tomorrow. But I think that's part of my changed perspective too, is that I find most joy now when I get to serve other people or do something cool where I see God using me. I find more joy in that than I do in anything else. Now there are some times where I sin or make a mistake, and I'm trying to find joy in other places. But I know that's temporary.
Yeah. What's the biggest thing that you feel like you have to overcome right now?
The biggest thing I have to overcome.
Like the Bible talks about, Hebrews 12 talks about the getting rid of the sins that so easily entangle you.
Yeah.
The things that just have a habit of tripping you up.
Yeah.
What are those things for you? You don't have to get real specific, but just if you could summarize it.
the easiest thing that tripped me up.
Come on, man, it's a podcast. You got to keep this thing
I know.
moving.
I can't. I don't know you.
I'll tell you what it is for
think
me.
about it. What?
For me, it's probably, it's probably selfishness. I just get selfish. I want my own way, and I make a lot of decisions out of selfishness. And so I'll just choose myself over my kids, or myself over my wife, or myself over the church. The responsibilities that I have to do, because, I just love me some me. Yeah. Sometimes, And
I think everything can boil down to selfishness, though.
Yeah, probably so. Pretty general.
I mean, everything that I struggle with is because it's selfishness, and I'm trying to seek joy from temporary things.
Yes.
And it's selfish.
Yeah.
And when I know where the true joy, when I really am clicking with God and, really in His Word and talking to Him on a regular basis and praying for other people and serving Him, man, that's where the true happiness and joy comes from.
Yep.
For me.
Yes.
And I think you said, what do I need to overcome right now? I think it's just myself. Which I have full peace and faith that God is going to use me in a big way. I've seen God use me in big ways a lot, and then go through seasons where He doesn't. Mm-hmm. And I know He's going to use me in a big way, and He's preparing me for something. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to try to be faithful in the little things right now that He's given me. Like I said, with my kids, my wife, my family, my business, my friendships. I gotta be faithful in those things before He's gonna maybe use me in the bigger things again.
Yep. Well, very cool that you came and shared with us. Thanks for being so open about it. All right, so you told me that story about how you got caught up in gambling and how you got real behind, and that was one of the major catalysts that actually brought you to a place where you needed Jesus. But one of the things you shared in that story with me was how you were playing golf with your dad, and you felt like you had to tell him.
Yes.
And I think you were hoping that he would kind of bail you out, and help you. So y'all are on the 9th hole.
Yeah,
here in Corsicana.
And I was 23 years old, I believe. And I was depressed, no relationships. I was in the middle of trying to figure out this guy. Do I need to follow? What do I need to do? Yeah. And so, I think every college kid goes through that to some degree after they graduate. Now they're thrown out into the world. Yep. So I had owed this bookie that was threatening my life, and I came down to Corsicana to kind of figure out what am I going to do. My dad going to help me? He going to bail me out again? Mm-hmm. And so we're playing the whole time we're playing. I'm a 23-year-old sitting here thinking, how am I going to bring this up? And so, anyways, we're playing golf, and we're on the 9th tee box at the Corsicana Country Club, and I'm like, Dad, I got to tell you something. And he's over his ball, about to hit his ball. And I said, Dad, I owe $20-something thousand to a guy in New York City, and he's threatening to kill me. He's a bookie. I've been gambling on football. And he didn't say a word. And I think he probably hit his drive the furthest I've ever seen it. Really? He swung as hard as he could hit it. I think it was probably 2 holes. We didn't say a word. I think it was on the 11th tee box. He looked at me and goes, I'm sorry that happened to you, son. He was like, and he was real calm. And my dad was saved at this point too, through Grace Community Church when Grace Community first started. And his used to, my dad probably would have gone off the handle. Right. But my dad, he had a life change too. And he just calmly looked at me and said, I'm sorry that happened to you. He goes, I'm not gonna give you any money to help you. He was like, we'll figure this. I'll help you figure it out, but you're going to pay that guy. And so what ended up happening is my dad basically said, you're you're going to have to get a loan. And if they won't give you a loan, I guess you're going to drag me into this. I'm going to have to co-sign. And so he co-signed a note for me, and I had to pay that loan back.
Man.
But, I mean, that's a really good example of grace. You know, he could have just flown off the handle at me and gone ballistic, but he didn't. He calmly just said, you know, I'm sorry that happened to you, and we'll figure out how to help you pay that back.
Yeah.
But another thing, kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier, what I think is really cool about when a young man grows up and he gets saved, is that there's a period there where I had to like step away from all of those things, like drinking alcohol and in a relationship with a girl, and I had to fully seek him, you know, and look, I can see so many things that he did over that time. But then when you get saved and you build that foundation with him, and then God says, okay, I'm going to place you back in the world, and now I want you to go back into those places, you know, and minister to those people. And I've got so many cool stories about, you know, I think it gave me the confidence that you know, I don't care how people reject me anymore, because I know what I'm telling them is true. And so I'm just going to consistently throw it out there to people that I know maybe not be believers or not. And I'm going to go back into those places and not participate in some of that stuff. But I'm going to spread the name of Jesus. And I did that, and it was uncomfortable, very uncomfortable at times. And I got rejected a lot. But it was cool because a few years ago, I had a few people call me from like 8 years, 10 years back, and said, you know, those times that you were speaking to me in that bar, or the time that, you know, we went out and then you came back over to my house and you told me about your testimony. He goes, I may have like brushed you off or rejected you, but like, I just want to let you know that really impacted me, and I got baptized, you know, last weekend. And I mean, it's that kind of stuff that, I mean, you know, we all know, like, we can't be scared of rejection, because they're not rejecting us.
Right. Have you, I have the exact same philosophy as you in that, and it's been hard for me at times to balance going back into those settings and, you know, being in the world but not of the world, and not being, you know, I made some mistakes in that too, where I'm like, I'm going to go back into this world and I'm going to bring Jesus into this world, and I'll take it too far and get washed over by the world.
Yeah.
You know, that's been hard for me too, but I still think it's worth the risk, because that's where people are. And Jesus went where people are.
That's right.
And we got to be willing to go where people are too.
Even though it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But like kind of what you just said about when you do put yourself in the world, I mean, it's a fine line. Like, and I don't even know what that line is.
Yep.
Like you can say what it is, but then when I think about it from both perspectives, I know I'm going to make mistakes. I mean, even if I don't put myself in those situations, I'm going to sin in some way.
Right.
But why not try?
Yeah.
You know, and I'm going to fall, and I'm going to get in those situations, and I'm going to fall, and I have a bunch.
Yep, me too.
And sometimes I feel like, well, maybe I took it too far. But if somebody gets saved out of that, is it not worth it? Because I'm already am saved.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll tell you this.
But I will admit that there are times, and maybe I'm going through one of those times right now. Mm-hmm. I mean, I do have to take a step back sometimes and go, okay, maybe I have been taking it too far in the world, and maybe I'm not as effective. But then I have to go, well, I'm not the one that's effective anyways.
Right.
You know, the Holy Spirit is the one doing the work.
Yeah. Well, and
I struggle with that.
I do too. And I think sometimes, I mean, it's like you say, God's going to redeem it all. You know, he's gonna work like the old preachers used to say. You know, he hits straight licks with crooked sticks. You know, he's gonna do good things, even in our crookedness, even in our messed up areas. And I think sometimes people need to know that Christians fall, but we fall forward. You know, we fall into the grace of God, and we fall into the hands of a loving God who forgives us and dusts us off and sends us back on our way for His glory, you know. And that doesn't mean we go out, like Paul said, doesn't mean we use that as a license to go out and sin.
No, but I'll be honest, I do sometimes.
I do too. Sometimes I do.
And I know that's not right.
Mm-hmm.
But then part of me says, yeah, but your motive
Mm-hmm.
is to let Him live through you out there in the world.
Yep.
But I'm human. I'm gonna struggle. I'm gonna fall.
There's a balance in there somewhere, and I think trying to find that balance is one of the struggles of life. And sometimes the balance goes in the other way too, where we get so heavenly minded we're no earthly good, you know, and we end up over here in this corner forming a holy huddle, and all we're doing is talking to other Christians, and we don't have any influence in the world, and that's not right either, you know. So I don't know how to achieve that balance, but I appreciate you talking about the struggle of it, because I think it's something that most Christians face, and I think it's worth the struggle.
I do too.
You know, I really do. Thanks for taking the time, Stu. Thanks for being honest. You got a lot going on in your life. You're with Stuart's the State Farm agent here in Corsicana, one of them, and just a good dude. One of the things I appreciate that you do around our town is you give out that game of the week, player of the week, for all the schools in Navarro County and everything. I think that's pretty cool. You're involved in a lot. You got a lot of responsibility with your family, with the various things that you're involved in, and I just appreciate you taking the time and coming in here and talking to me. And I know God's going to use this conversation, I hope, to give people who don't know a different perspective on you and what you've been through, and really give them a different perspective on who Jesus is. You know, the fact that He sees fit to save people like me and you,
for sure,
and set us on the right path. It's humbling. It's awesome, and it's available to anybody. If it's available to us, it's available to anybody.
True.
All right. Love you, buddy. Thank
you too, man.
Appreciate the time.
If you enjoyed our show, please subscribe. And if you'd like to spread the word, please consider leaving a 5-star review and tell your friends to subscribe too. Our video podcast is available on our Grace Community Church YouTube channel. This Is My Story is produced and engineered by Jake Moore and is a ministry of Grace Community Church in Corsicana, Texas. The views and opinions expressed on this show are those of the speaker and do not necessarily express the views of Grace Community Church. Thanks for listening.